We hate it! You already know who it is. It's the radioactive Bobby Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Bobby.
Welcome. Do you know who I am?
Who the hell are you?
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
Just what is it that you want to do?
We want to get loaded, and we want to have a good time.
Okay, let's party.
Let me talk to you. I'm building an alliance.
Will you join us?
It's showtime.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
You're not here, you missing out, because this show...
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome!
All right, listen up.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Now here's the other Alliance guys, Tim, Jeremy, and Dave.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and what can we tell you? We are 2/3 of the other Alliance guys, the most electrifying six-man tag team on live stream today. Could you imagine if I was that arrogant? Well, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information around the United Wrestling Network, Major League Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, and other promotions around the world. And my name's Tim, and this is Dave. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Good. Hey, Matthew Underwood's here. Matthew Underwood's one of the most active members on our Discord, Scoop, in the Alliance Discord. And I find myself the more time I spend on that Discord, the more his opinions and mine tend to align with one another. So we must be spending a lot of time online for that kind of thing to happen.
Yeah.
We are waiting for a couple of people to show up, not the least of which is Championship Wrestling from Jeremy. He should be here shortly. He's stuck in traffic. It happens. But he'll be here. Steve G is in the house. Hey, Steve. Talk some UWN for you later, my friend. But tonight, while we're also waiting for the man himself, we're scheduled to talk to Vinny Berry of Wrestleville and the author of Wrestleville. This is one of the copies here. 1 and 2, a collection, kind of a hodgepodge collection of short stories. He also wrote Lance by Chance around Lance Von Erich. And now he's written a new book that he's put out there called Wrestle Black Bart, the biography. This is it here, the biography of journeyman legend Black Bart from all around Scoob, all around the NWA and beyond. Guy was a long rider. That's kind of where I remember him.
Yep, him and Outlaw Ron Bass.
That's right. And of course, as we were talking about earlier, the Desperados.
Yeah.
WCW. But he's had an amazing career, and Vinny's had the opportunity to talk with Bart and get some of that information. We don't know where Vinny is, but I'm sure he'll be here shortly. I'll tell you what we'll do is we wait for Jeremy and we wait for Bart and we get into all of that good stuff. Why don't we talk about one of the favorite promotions that you and I love, Scoob? Let's talk about this one right here.
We are MLW. The ultimate stage where fighting styles compete for greatness and gold. Where styles make fights. This is Major League Wrestling.
Well, we love our Major League Wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Scoob, this is a company that just brands their shows seemingly every month, like free on YouTube and I believe on Fight. What did they just have? Tell us about some of the results.
Burning Crush, and that was done at the actual tapings of Super Fight. They did it before and after they taped it, and I think there were 5 or 6 wrestling matches, plus they had interviews and stuff like that. Cesar of Azteca Underground from Lucha back in the day, he's back. He's bringing in some luchadors. He and Serena De La Renta are doing battle for lucha supremacy. Cruel Mads Kruger is back, and he and Jacob Fatu go to battle in this, and it was, I'm not going to say amazing, but they do storytelling so well. So it's one of these things of they make it make sense. When you're watching the tapings, you're sometimes wondering, oh, why are they doing this? But then when they put it together and they have like the video clips or interviews, it all makes sense once it's put together. So it's one of these things of they have World Titan Federation with Saint Laurent, and they're going to be they have different members that they don't all have to be there at the same time. So if like, oh, I don't know, what's his name? Top Dollar, AJ Francis. He's the newest member. So he'll come in. He's also going to be involved with the NWA, I believe, a couple days later. But it's one of these things that they're doing it smart. They bring in enough people to make the tapings interesting. That if they're more towards the lucha storyline, they'll have more luchadors. But they have the calling now, and the calling is less 1 or 2 people. That at Super Fight, Akira was being taken down and Raven showed up. Quote the Raven, nevermore. He showed up and turned his back on the calling, and he and Akira, plus possibly 1 or 2 other people, I'm not going to put any spoilers out there, but they do very well at battle warfare with groups. That it's 2, 3 people, and it's just, I personally like this kind of wrestling, and like I said, it's a buffet of wrestling. They have some hardcore stuff. They have the high flyers. They have just the guys that just want to beat the hell out of each other. And that's it touches on just enough to keep your interest, and then boom, there's something new. So you don't get tired of the same old, same old. It's not like back in the 90s and early 2000s where, okay, hey, Stone Cold's hot, so let's get a bald guy and put him in black tights, and that's your next big thing. So it's one of these things.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit afraid to ask a question about the show because I don't know what was a spoiler and what wasn't. But I'm going to ask you. You can go like this if you think, let's not talk about it, or do whatever you want to do. But we know that we have a new MLW World Champion right now already.
Mm-hmm.
We know that from his time in the NWA. Did Alex Kane come out having lost the title and essentially go babyface?
I wouldn't say.
One of these? Yeah. Toodaloo, toodaloo, toodaloo.
I mean, nowadays he's just being himself. The Bombay Fight Club is still backing him. It's just he's starting over. But he's only been wrestling for, 5 or 6 years. So, I mean, he has quite a resume in front of him already. So it's one of these things of MLW is going back to its roots and having a new champion who is a 2-time champion now. And they're going to be in New York the end of the month. Then they're also going to be in Tampa.
Right.
Just they're expanding out.
There's that champion right there holding the belt.
Yep.
The cozy lariat.
Yep.
And Mr. Riddle.
And Riddle wasn't there for this pay-per-view, but with how they do things, not everything has to be right then and there. That the actual super fight that was at the beginning of the month, it was just about 2 hours, and there were 6 matches plus a couple interviews. So they're giving all the wrestlers time for the story to breathe, and they're not rushing things. And that's what I actually like. That Court Bauer back in the day used to be with WW, I think it was E back then. He may have started when it was F, I'm not sure, but he's a former WWE person that did bookings and stuff like that. He decided to start his own, do Major League Wrestling. And it's one of these things of there's still things that I don't love about it, but I can overlook little things. That it's one of these things that if back in the day, if you would buy an album, there's going to be some hit songs, but not all the songs are going to be hit songs.
Yeah, Court throws a wide net, right? He's appealing to everybody that he can, right?
And I mean, he has a very good relationship with Japan, has a relationship down in Mexico. So they're always bringing in different people that if there's some people coming over from Japan, you may see them on MLW, you may see them on AEW, you may see them doing some Game Changer, but they bring them in, and if they're over for 90 days, they get as much work out of them as they can and keep the storyline going. Right. Now, I don't for them to keep the belt on cozy as long as they did, maybe 3-4 months. But beating a former champion, and this is a former 2-time champion, they're basically trying to raise the stock of everybody around them. Like they say, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Sure.
They're doing this by using wrestlers that have experience to build up other wrestlers around them. That I mean, like WTF. If Cardona isn't there, now, okay, Top Dollar's there to take his place. And when Cardona comes back, Top Dollar may not be there, or who knows?
I saw announced today that the WTF in the form of, hey, Jeremy, how are you?
Good.
You look, you fell asleep in the barber chair and woke up just in time.
Yeah.
I saw that they booked Davey Boy Smith Jr.
Yep.
And Filthy Tom against the Second Gear Crew for the tag titles.
Yep.
I love tag team wrestling more than any other type of wrestling. That's a match for me.
It's going to be a banger of a match, and I mean, Davey Boy Smith Jr. He's now coming out just in jeans and boots and just proceeding to stomp.
Right.
By any means necessary. I mean, it's just good storytelling. And that's what I like about it. They make it make sense that for the last couple times, they haven't really, they've defended the second year crew has defended the belts last year. But in January and February, they've been going against WTF in singles matches, and they've been coming out on the losing end. So it's building to a tag team match where WTF may get the belts. If they do, it's just going to push them even further. But it's one of these things that they're always doing something in pushing some new teams or partnering up people that, it may be a newcomer that comes into the group, but there's only one or two of the new quote unquote rookie wrestlers that are with WTF. But I mean, they're learning from Davey Boy Smith, Filthy Tom, Matt Cardona. There's a wealth of knowledge in MLW, and they're doing enough to push the newer people. And they're also building up a women's division, which I do like.
Yeah, they're putting a nice little push into it, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to talk about some of the results from Burning Crush, or are we ahead of our time?
I mean, we can. It was shown last Saturday on their YouTube channel. So if you want, you can go to MLW Major League Wrestling on YouTube, and it's just under 2 hours. And it goes quickly.
Yeah,
it's good storytelling, but I mean, we can tell you the results, but the results don't always tell you the whole story. So it's one of the things that
I'll put this up. Boop, boop, boop. So we've never used this. Scooby gave us
Wow.
We'll go to the comments afterwards because Matthew Underwood had a great question, and we'll talk about what do we want to talk about down the road. But let's do the results first. I'll let you guys talk about it. I didn't see it because I'm lame. So tell us about it.
Well, to start off, Alex Kane comes out, former champion, goes out on to the entryway. He says it's harder than he thought it was going to be, not being champion. That when he started the Bombay Fight Club, he did it for himself, but the fans brought it up to a new level, and it was not just about him, it was for the people. Right. And that he was a fighting champion, and it's a movement. It's not just him. So it's one of these things of, he was doing the talking of, he's going to have to, he wants to go after the championship belt again, but he realizes he does have a return clause, but he's not going to stop fighting just because he has an automatic return clause. So it's one of those things that, as he was talking, Mr. Thomas came out and built him up saying, yeah, the hard work, we just have to start over again. And that's when Top Dollar AJ Francis showed up on the screen, and it's going to be AJ Francis and Alex Kane, that it's going to come down to a battle of the big men. And it's just talking smack of, I know you like to do the suplexes, you're a suplex machine, but there's no way you're going to get me in a suplex, and I'll see you in New York City. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that it's a story to be told of being built back up and using the talent that you're bringing in one way or another, that they don't always have to win, lose. Sometimes it can be a draw, and it just keeps the story going. That if AJ Francis, if the story doesn't get told this way, then someone else.
Prediction. AJ Francis is going to be suplexed like by Cena, like Cena was by Lesnar that time.
Oh yeah,
all over the ring for his payday. He's going to earn that payday.
He's going to earn it.
Yeah.
I'm saying that Kane is just going to snap and go into quote unquote the zone, and he's just going to be like, boom, pick him up, down, up, down, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to do this. Okay, it's not going to be like a one or two times. He's just going to keep going until the bell's ringing, people come out, they have to stop the match. That it's just going to be a free for all. That he already has the people behind him. He's just lacking the title, but I don't think he needs the title now.
Right.
So it's one of these things that it was a good opening, and it's starting to tell the story. And it's that AJ Francis is coming in, and he's a new member of WTF. But you can already see that, like I said, that they do battle, that there's group warfare, that you have all these different groups and different wrestlers that are pairing up. And it's just to me, it takes me back to when WWE/F was doing like Los Bravuicos, the back in the day when they'd have like 3 or 4 different guys battling.
Yeah, gang war or
they'd have the gang
turf war or something, right?
And I mean, it's good because it's not always just about one person. It's about that group. That if you take one of those people out, the rest of the group have to step up. So I mean, to me, it's good storytelling, and it's one of these things that if you're used to what WWE and AEW do, therefore the instant gratification at least 75% of the time. Court Bauer stretches it out. Like I said, it's the taffy. You got to stretch it and pull, stretch it out, and they do make it mean something.
Yeah.
That there will be a payoff, but sometimes you just have to wait. And we'll see. I mean,
let's get back to MLW in a sec, Scoob. I know you're on your phone, so you won't be able to see this, but our guest of honor has arrived. I'm going to bring him on now. The author and the man behind Wrestleville.com, the author of Wrestleville 1. I got my copy right here, Vinny.
All right.
And 2, and Lance by Chance. And now Wrestle Black Bart, the biography, if you will, of the legendary wrestler. Great art on the front, by the way.
Yeah.
Black Bart. Welcome, Vinny Berry.
Thank you.
Excited to have you here.
Man, it's great to be here. I really appreciate you guys giving me the time.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. We've been looking forward to this one all week, and I've been kind of picking my questions. What am I going to ask Mr. Berry? And I know you've been on with J. Cal before, and this is sort of a new round of writing that you've done this time around, Black Bart. And I maybe we can just jump right into it if we can. I know we all got questions, and we encourage the chat to jump in and ask your questions of Vinny as well. So maybe if I can, Vinny, I know there's a story here. I've heard you say this on another podcast before, but how did you come to write the biography or the stories of Black Bart right down on the book that you have? What was the story and how you got there?
Yeah, okay, sure. Absolutely. Well, I do want to say Bart wanted to come on today, and he is battling stage 4 cancer. He has good days and bad days. Today was a bit of a bad day for him, and he's been running around since 8:30, going to appointments and wherever, whatever. And I called him at 5:30, and he just said, please just do it without me today. So I do want to apologize because I was hoping to surprise you with him. And he's authentic as they come.
Yeah, he gives a great interview. We'd love to talk to him when he's feeling better.
Well, you know what? He pours his heart out in this book, right? And I mean, but to answer your question, I was working on these two books here, the Pro Wrestling Vault Volume 1 and Volume 2, the Wrestleville, the brand is, and I was working on these two books. Was going to be one book, but I didn't want it to be 500 pages, so I split it up in two, and it became more of a job than I thought it was going to be. When I was promoting this one, the Volume 1, I called a gentleman who had me on his podcast when I was doing the Lance Von Erich book.
Right.
And when I was doing that, so I said, hey, look, I got my second book coming out. Are you doing your podcast? And he said, no, I'm not doing my podcast right now. He says, what I'm doing is I'm booking wrestlers for shows and doing some PR for them. And he said, which reminds me, I've been working with Black Bart. He's looking for an author. Would you be interested? And it was something that I was, but I've got to be real careful about overloading my plate. So I told him, I said, you know what? I'm just not able to do it at this time. When I felt like I had my head above water, I reached back out to him and I said, hey, look, I don't know if Bart's still looking for a writer, but I still, I might be able to help him. And so he got me Bart's number. I called Bart, and the first thing out of Bart's mouth was, Dadgum, Vinny, I've been waiting for you to call me. So, and he was like, so we're going to do this, right? We're going to do this. And I said, well, Bart, let's just, talk for a couple weeks. Let's get a feel for each other. I said, you might not even like me in a couple weeks. So, let's just kind of feel each other out. And before I could agree, I was already taking notes and,
It had already started.
Yeah, thinking, once I get the wheels going, it was basically simmering in here. I thought, yeah, we're going to do this project. So,
right. Yeah, that's awesome. I know that I'm going to pitch it over to these guys in a second and to let let them ask you their stuff. But one I wanted to ask you was Bart's career was pretty long. And he's got to be, I'm guessing 75 right now, right? That's
I believe he just turned 70, if I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. So, but he went everywhere. He seemed to have some really cool ups, he seemed to be at that in the UWF right when the NWA takeover was there, and he ended up national title, Mid-Atlantic, and and he had some downs. Yeah. It seemed like a real reliable hand wherever he went. And, I know that he's based in Texas and that but he appeared all over, like Mid-Atlantic and Southeastern and World Class, obviously, and, WWF near the end of his career. But is there a story that he told you for the book that really stands out as these guys were on the road and the things that happened? Is there something wild that he told you that you put in the book that you could share with us?
Yeah. So many, right? I mean, it had to go to a place where it was like, okay, man, we gotta stop. We have to put a bow tie on this thing, right? And one story that's in this book and you're right, he had a up and down career. I mean, he was on the bottom and he was in the middle and he was on the top and he was on the middle and he was on the bottom and he was on the top, and that was his whole career, his 30 years. A lot of these guys come in and they climb the ladder, get to the top, and then they, put guys over, and that wasn't the case for him. He was like a Richter scale. There's a story in here when he was working in World Class. What was it, in 1988, I believe?
Okay.
He gets a phone call from Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody says, look, I'm in Puerto Rico. I'm scheduled to go to Austria and wrestle Otto Vance, and I can't go, and I need you to go. It's a big deal, and I can't no-show, and I don't trust too many people to go. You go. So he talked to Fritz, got everything set up. Bart goes out to Austria. He wrestles one match out there with Otto Vance. I don't know if you guys remember him.
I do.
Okay. Yeah. His name is spelled W-A-N-Z.
Yeah.
But it's pronounced, everyone calls him Otto Vance, right?
Yeah, the W, as they call it in German, right?
Right. All right. So he's a big old barrel-chested. He was the AWA champ for several months for Vern. Anyway, he goes out there, wrestles, gets, he tells me he got paid $3,000 for the match plus a $2,000 bonus. Comes back so excited about his experience. He wrestles in the Sportatorium on a Friday and gets word that Bruiser Brody dies the following Sunday.
Oh, wow.
And so, I checked the dates on that. I was like, wow, unbelievable. And you think, had Bruiser Brody not stayed in Puerto Rico and he'd gone to Austria, maybe all that would have turned out different for him. So that's a story that's in the book that, that I couldn't believe.
Yeah,
that is incredible.
That he's telling me this story. It's like, wow.
Would never have had that run-in with. His name's not important. Who cares, right? Yeah. Let's forget that guy. Let's remember Bruiser.
Right.
Yeah. What do you got, Jeremy? You want to ask away?
Well, and it's one of Mike took one of my questions, kind of. I got introduced to Black Bart through the WWF whenever I first saw him. And he always struck me as what they would call a shooter now, referred to as a shooter now, and just a good hand, like Tim said, but he always made me believe. Like whenever he hit somebody, I believed that he was hurting that guy. There were a lot of guys that threw a punch and you could see the wrist roll or see the gap in between and everything. With Bart, he was so snug. Was that just how he was, or?
Well, I think he had to be snug because the guys he worked with were snug. Black Jack Mulligan was snug. The Von Erichs were snug. Yeah. Maybe more snug.
Yeah, intentionally or otherwise. Yeah.
Right. But he, he was like, look, he never hurt anybody. They went to that point where, they were going to make you believe, right? And they believed in going out there. Of course, Bart comes off. He's very, very candid. He was like, look, I had 12 beers minimum before I stepped in the ring. And those guys, were lubricated, right? Because if you go in there and do what they did, and like you said, it looked believable because it was. But of course, they're not trying to knock each other's teeth out.
Right.
It was mutually agreed upon destruction.
Right. And there's a story in the book where Black Jack Mulligan hit him so hard that it knocked him cold. They had to, change the finish and get him out of there. But, he talks about the comparison between Black Jack Mulligan and Barry Windham. It's like
Sure.
Barry, he described Barry as a fly could land on your nose harder than Barry would hit you, but it would look like Barry hit you.
Okay.
Right. Right.
And Blackjack Mulligan wasn't the case.
Right.
It looked like he hit you, and he hit you, and he hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll throw it to Scoob. I'm just gonna throw up your books for a second, if I may. These are available and on Wrestleville.com. I think also through Amazon, but you want Wrestleville.com, right? That's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But you know what? I pack them at, if you buy them at Amazon, you buy them at Wrestleville.com. I pack them. So, of course, Amazon likes their pie, and they get a nice piece of the pie.
I'm sure you go. So, Wrestleville.com, everybody.
Wrestleville.com.
There's the Pro Wrestling Volume 1, and here is Volume 2, which I hear is even better than Volume 1. I still got to get my copy, but I'll definitely get that from Wrestleville.com. And then, of course, Lance by Chance. Hopefully that's picking up even more steam now, Vinny, with the Iron Claw movie.
That book did really well. It actually, when the trailer came out, it did really good between the trailer and the movie coming out. It didn't do as well as I thought it would after the movie came out. However, that thing is, I packed that thing up still. I've sold, matter of fact, I sold one. I took one to the post office today. It still sells. It's a lot of people, it's funny, people say, hey, put it on social media. Dude, I come across people that, that I would think knows about the book. And I said, well, you know about the book, right? They're like, what book are you talking about? I said, yeah, this one. They're like, no, I've never seen that book before. I said, well, if you're referring to my Facebook, I post it every day. So I don't know how people are missing it. But yeah, it's out there. It's doing well. The Black Bart book is doing well. And that Wrestleville 1 and 2, the Pro Wrestling Volume 1 and 2 that we talked about, those are short stories. So between the two of them, there's probably 90 stories. One has 35, one has like 46 stories in it, all told by the wrestlers. So, Jazz is in there, Kamala's in there, Bobby Fulton, Bobby Eaton, PJ Black, Thunder Rosa, Harley Race, Larry Henning. I could just go on and on. And there's a lot of people on the independent scene in there too. Matter of fact, real quick, Blake Christian, Thea Hale, Matty Ronkowski, and Kerry Morton, all before they were wrestling on bigger companies, I had a chance to interview. So there's really a wide range of talent that's in this book. And I think, any wrestling fan, any avid reader would really like, because you don't have to read the whole book to find out the Butler did it, right? You just read a little bit and put it down, read a little bit.
You can really read it in chunks, I found. And that it's I mean this in the kindest way. It is a great bathroom book. Like you can pick it up and read that story and move on with your your afternoon or whatever. Scooby, over to you.
I looked up. I loved the character of Black Bart, just no nonsense. And I looked up on Wikipedia, and it shows all the different territories, and he was truly a journeyman. That he did what they did back in the day of territories. That he'd go in, be there 6, 8, 10, maybe 12 months, depending on storyline and where he fell on the card. But I remember watching him, and you could see that they trust him with new wrestlers, rookies, and the established. I remember watching on ESPN when they had World Class, and this was like late 80s, maybe 86, 87. And I remember one week Chris Adams was there as champion, and then boom, 2 weeks later he's gone, and hey, there's a new champion, Black Bart. And I didn't follow wrestling that close in that I knew all the behind the scenes things, and it was real to me. I grew up in Kansas City, so it's Harley Race and Bulldog Bob Brown and that stuff. So to me, I saw guys that it was believable. And when you saw Black Bart, I'm like, cool, he's champion. Well, in seeing that he became champion in a quote unquote fantasy match, that they did the right thing, that Fritz was basically putting it on a bad guy, on a heel. So when Kevin came in to win the championship, it was just so much bigger. It's one of those things that I liked how they did the storytelling, and in doing that, him bouncing back and forth, that he'd be like in Mid-South. He'd be there for a couple months, leave, and then come back maybe a year later. That back in the day, he played his part no matter what they asked of him. And jumping from that into WCW when they did the Desperados, by that time I was aware of some of the behind the scenes stuff, and it was just, I'm glad he had a job, but it was almost hurtful to my heart seeing this guy who is a badass is stumbling around as a cowboy looking for Stan Hansen.
Oh, the Desperados, yeah.
The Desperados.
Okay, so you touched on a lot of stuff, and it's all in the book. You know, the world class, the belt. So here's the deal: George Scott was the booker for world class. He knew George Scott from his first run over there in the Mid-Atlantic.
Okay.
So when he came down, and he was only coming, he would wrestle for Fritz when he was coming home to see his family.
Oh,
okay.
Cool.
Yeah, so he would wrestle for Fritz, and one night he was wrestling for Fritz, and George Scott drops the belt on his duffel bag, and he says, "You're the champ." And he says, "I'm the champ." He goes, "Yeah, you won the belt in El Paso." And he said, "I did." He said, "Yeah, you beat Chris Adams." He says, "I did." He says, "Yeah, you did." He goes, "George, I'm not sticking around. I've got a job. I'm wrestling for the Crockett's." And he's like, he goes, what George tell him? He says, "Yeah, how long you wanted to wrestle in Dallas?" He said, "Well, since I started." He goes, "Well, here's your chance."
Wow.
So, you know, and the thing that Chris got in trouble, you guys familiar with the headbutt when he headbutted the co-pilot?
Yep.
If you're not, you can definitely read that story in Lance by Chance.
All right.
And
Available on Wrestleville.com, everyone.
you know what? There's a story, you know, there's really good stories in here of Chris Adams. There's two stories. There's a chapter on Chris Adams in here. He got in trouble in Israel. They had to sneak him out in the middle of the night, and he got in trouble on the plane, and he got arrested by the FBI. They landed the plane in Florida. So it's good stuff in here. Well, Bart, the way Bart tells it, he thought they took the belt off Chris because they didn't know if he was going to jail or if he's getting deported or what the deal. Right. So that's why he says that they put him on to give the belt some stability, right? And so he had the belt and gave it back to Kevin. So, you know, the way that you explained it, Dave, that's how they did things back then, right? I mean, that's how they did things. But the way that Bart told the story, and the way that it appears in the book is about the way I told it. The thing on the Desperados is Dusty saw that these three guys, Colley and Dutch Mantell and Randy Colley and Dutch Mantell and Bart, all had chemistry, and he wrote a TV show for these guys. So, and they shot the pilot and spent a lot of money on it, and I'm not going to tell you who, but somebody got their butt hurt and went to Ted and said, hey.
Really?
BS. And so they pulled the show. So that's in the book. You'll be able to read that. I want to kind of let you know that what's in there without,
Yeah. We'll just get a taste. We can't have the whole. Is this the? I gotta ask though. Is this the gimmick that Dusty? It gets mentioned. I think in the back of your book on the jacket that Dusty offered Bart, or is that something further?
Well, that's in the book too, but this is this was something different.
Okay. I remember that Desperados gimmick as just being right at that point for me where it was like I didn't understand what the hell was going on. Like Randy Colley to me was Dead-Eye Dick before and after anything else, right? But I didn't get the point, and I didn't get how they were seemingly back in the late 1800s. Like everything around them was also Wild West. And that was it, because they were shooting a show. They were doing little clips. They were trying to use the wrestling television to push it. And then what was it? I think Fox was going to pick it up. But anyway, it just imploded, and
Oh wow!
Wow. He, Dutch Mantell has a lot of nice things to say about Bart, and more than just being a solid hand, but a good guy is really how he describes him, as being a good guy to hang around with outside of the ring as well, and just really enjoying it. I'm sorry to hear that he's sick now, and we certainly hope that he's going to be getting better, and hope you pass on our best wishes from everybody out there, to him. He's definitely missed in today's environment anyway, with some of the types of talents that we see. We could use a few more hosses like Black Bart.
Man, he was the real deal, right? Mm-hmm. I mean,
yep.
I tell you, when I was watching wrestling, when I discovered Bart, he was wrestling in Florida. I was about 15 years old in Dallas, reading the magazines. All right. So, and back then, you didn't get living in Dallas. I didn't get Florida Championship Wrestling, right?
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the magazines was the only way that I could. And so fast forward 40 years later, and here I am hearing these stories, and because I was really curious. I was like, okay, in the magazines, everybody's in Florida. Dusty's in Florida. Bart's in Florida. Wyndham and everybody's in Florida. Next magazine I get, nobody's in Florida.
Right.
They either go to WWF or they go to the Carolinas. And I didn't know what happened until I wrote the book. So, it's in the chapter of Lord of the Rings, and it's very interesting, And I did my research on that, where some guy said this and somebody said this, and leave it up to the reader to but we did enough research where it's like, interesting.
That is interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, leave it up to your... Go ahead, yeah.
Well, 16 guys left Florida.
Yeah.
Wow.
16 wrestlers. And that was when Florida Championship Wrestling was at its peak. And it
nothing but
exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing but embers, you know?
Yeah, somebody wanted to pick that up. I can't remember now. And call it Charlotte South or something ridiculous. And I can remember it was probably Dutch just saying, like, why the hell would you try to call it Charlotte anything in Florida? That doesn't make any sense. Who are you drawing? No one in Florida, no one from Charlotte's coming down to watch it. So that's bizarre. But you know, I have a selfish question I got to ask you as a writer, if I can. We lost Dave for a second. Oh, there he is. He's back. You know, as a writer, and I'm hoping someday to do a coffee table style book about belts. And as a writer, you've written sort of a couple. It's all wrestling based, but you've written sort of a couple of collections of short stories. And it's interesting how you have like guys in the back of the book. I can see Damian Wayne, I think, and Tim Storm on your wall there.
Right.
Former NWA champion and a guy who should have been NWA champion beside him.
I agree.
But you've written that, and then, you know, you got obviously Lance to give you information for that book. And now Bart, you know, it seems like he's given you so much. You got to condense it into this book. How was it for you? How did it differ writing Bart's story or Lance's story than it did writing the other style of getting all the different stories and kind of making a big soup mix of all of the stuff together?
Yeah, sure. Well, the way the stories were working, the short stories, was, you know, I started my website in 2017, Wrestleville.com,
right,
where I was, not to make the story any longer than it needs to be, but prior to that website, I was living down here in South Texas, covering MMA, boxing, pretty much all over the state of Texas. Well, when it fizzled out down here, we had a promotion company. The two partners broke up, and then the other company dissolved, and so it dried up down here. And in that time of me not writing, I wanted to write. You know, I was like, yeah, I got to do something, man. I mean, I was like going about 8-9 months and not doing it. And so I told my wife, I said, look, I got to start writing something. She goes, well, whatever you do it. Don't be doing it for all these other websites and all these other people. You drive the car. Don't be the passenger. You do whatever you want. Right. So I started my website, Wrestleville.com, writing articles, just, you know, interviewing guys, reached out to, you know, Greg Anthony, Damian Wayne, Wardell Walker, Tracy Smothers. Before you know it, somebody else. And so anyway, I was just doing that. Well, then the Lance book came along, and I started working on the Lance book. And I was still doing stories and writing the Lance book. Well, I guess, I don't remember. I think the Lance book came out and people were like, dude, you got to do a podcast and you can put commercials in your podcast. And, you know, well, what turned out was I went through a transition period. The website was going down. I ended up getting another web designer, created a whole different website. It really wasn't conducive to writing. So I went full throttle on my podcasts, and I took all those short stories, and instead of them just going away, I preserved them in the books. That's how that all came about.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you're still doing the podcast now?
I am.
And where can they find that if they're looking for it? Is it everywhere?
It is, yeah. Well, Wrestleville.com, of course.
Yeah.
Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podbean. I mean, it's pretty much anywhere. Fans First Sports Network. I mean, it's Megaphone. I mean, wherever, you know, wherever you get your podcast. As a matter of fact, I searched it the other day, and I found out I was on some podcasts I'd never even heard of.
Really?
Yeah. because you put it on Anchor, it's not Anchor anymore, it's Spotify, but if you put it on Megaphone or one of those platforms, it goes out, right? So
yeah. Well, that's amazing, and I hope that this book is as successful as even more successful than your already successful line of books. I'll run through them here one last time. Wrestleville.com, guys. This is volume 1. There's volume 2, which has I believe even more stories and has done even more successful than volume 1. Lance by Chance, as we've just been talking about, the story of Lance Von Erich, and now of course Wrestle Black Bart. And I know I love this art. This drawing that you got on here is amazing. I love the style, how it looks like a wanted poster.
Thank you. You know what? My niece did the artwork.
Oh, your niece.
Yeah. Me and Bart talked about it. I had the idea. If I would have done it, it would have looked like a scarecrow. But I gave the idea and the picture to my niece. I told her what I wanted. I gave her some, samples or whatever. And yeah, we just worked on it. And, she's an art major. She's about to be an art teacher. And she did an amazing job on it for sure. She also did some other drawings for me too. She did a really nice drawing of David Von Erich, very nice drawings of Lance, and some really neat stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. Here's Bart. This doesn't seem like too long ago.
That might be 2016.
2016. Still got the branding iron?
Yeah, he does.
Imagine trying to go through security with that thing these days.
Oh my goodness.
Here's our buddy James H. Jackson Jr. Listens to you on Apple Podcasts. Love the Rico Gonzalez episode.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. Well, Vinny,
I got Lindsay Dorado is coming out.
Ooh.
Yeah, matter of fact, he's on my website, but he'll be on all the downloading platforms this week. And who else do I got? There's just AJ Kazana.
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's coming on. So I got some really neat stuff coming up, and man, I'm just blessed with. I've been blessed with some good guests. I've been blessed with some really good wrestlers to come my way to, tell their story, and I just really appreciate the fact that they trust me to, be fair, and just, I like telling a good story. I don't have to. You can tell a good story without digging for the dirt, because people want to. What everyone's telling me about this book about Bart is that his heart comes out.
Right.
In this book, and I agree wholeheartedly, man. The guy is, you said that Dutch said he's a good guy, man. He's true blue. He's true blue.
Yeah, and again, give him our best for us. We wish him all good health. And once again, this is Vinny's book, Wrestleville.com. I don't have his new one yet. I will. I promise you. There it is.
Yeah, Wrestle Black Bart. It's got 31 stories in it. It's 336 pages. There's probably 55 pictures in here. You got stories of Mr. Fuji, Sergeant Slaughter, Roddy Piper, Kerry Von Erich. Matter of fact, Kerry Von Erich. He had his last big feud was with Kerry Von Erich. A lot of Von Erichs, a lot of world class. Sam Houston, a lot of Florida, Dusty Rhodes. I think people are going to really, really enjoy this book.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm starting a segment on our show here where I'm just going to review books. I got like 250 wrestling related books, and I got yours, so make sure yours is near the top of the pile, and We appreciate you coming on. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I sat down the other day. I was reading this. My wife came in the room. She goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm reading the book." She goes, "Haven't you read that thing already?" I said, "Babe, it's good."
It's good.
I mean, I was just enjoying the heck out of it, and I'm still laughing at some of the stuff isn't it. I know what's in it. It's not like it's surprising me, but it really does touch my heart, and I think people are really going to enjoy his career. And I did see one of the comments that said that he was a jobber and whatever. Yeah, he was a jobber in some places, but he was a top guy. He had the the NWA National Wrestling Alliance title a couple times.
Yeah, and that's
that ain't no slouch belt, if you ask me.
Yeah, there's no difference in really between bottom or top of the pile other than the paycheck, right? Like it's everybody's playing their role. He's a solid hand and 30 years in the business, and I remember him, as I was saying earlier, that NWA UWF takeover time, national championship, Mid-Atlantic. As Scoob was saying down there, world class coming in as the champ after Adams. Yeah,
he had two tours in Japan. He had belts. He wrestled in almost every major territory, and he had the stamp of approval by Dusty Rhodes.
Right.
And so, the guy had, if you ask me, he was successful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you don't go that many places. You don't get that many belts. You don't go to Japan if you're not good. You just don't.
That's right.
Or if you go and they don't like you, you don't come back.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Thanks again, Vinny. We will see you again soon. All the best to you and all the best to Black Bart.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And I look forward to, reach out to me anytime. I look forward to just shooting the breeze, man.
Fantastic. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Vinny Berry, author of Wrestle Black Bart and the brains behind Wrestleville.com, where you can find all of the books that we've talked about here today. We appreciate his time and Black Bart, Scoob. Like it's a name that just kind of gives you warmth. Like, I remember that guy, kicks some ass. Right? That was a lot of fun. Is Jeremy gone? Did we lose Jeremy?
I believe so.
Oh, let me see. Wait, let's see if he's here. He did send us a note that he's still in the background there somewhere. We'll let him bring himself back in afterwards if he can. But that was amazing. That was a lot of fun. We were talking about what were we talking about? We were talking about MLW. Oh, I think I might have just lost Vinny. He was still backstage. Maybe he quit on his own. I don't know. Sorry if I kicked you by accident, Vinny. I didn't mean to. If you're watching, and I look forward to having him back soon. So that was a lot of fun for me.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Before we go back into MLW, and I don't want to get everything in the middle. I'll put Jeremy there. He's on mute. I don't want to stop everything in the middle, but there were some questions that we've been on for just over an hour, and there were some questions. A question from Matthew Underwood, who had asked. We could wait till Jeremy's back, but he had asked, when the territories pop up on YouTube, are we going to talk about them? And I think it's a really good question, but I think the short answer, and I haven't polled either of these two gentlemen, but I think the short answer is probably yes. Mm-hmm. It's I don't hate the NWA, and I hope that doesn't get lost in my message of just not wanting to talk about them right now, being that international fan. I wish them all great success. But it also wasn't It also wasn't a direction that I don't think I forced upon us. Jeremy decided I'm not watching him for now, and Scoob was like, "Well, we're not going to talk about him unless there's a title change or something, right?" And so the territories if they come up on YouTube, are we going to talk about them? And I'm not hurting the NWA one way or the other, but I'm not trying to. I would say, yeah, I think that if there's stuff going on in the territories, that's right up our alley. What do you guys think?
It's with the territories for me. They're available on YouTube for all of us to watch. That is one of the benefits, and one of those territories happens to be Joe Kazana's, and I mean, Joe puts on a hell of an event.
Yep,
the man has a great mind for wrestling, and I've yet to watch one and go, yeah, I wouldn't have done that, or
right.
I wonder what Billy was thinking when he decided to book this shit. There's none of it's straight family friendly. Sit your kids down in front of it. Bring the grandbabies. It's good, clean, old school wrestling, traditional, what we grew up with. It's a good throwback, and I appreciate everything that Papa Joe, as everyone else calls him, puts out with JCP Wrestling. So I'm more than happy to talk about it if you guys are.
Yeah.
About the only reason I would say, that we weren't going to isn't anything to do with the NWA, as much as it is just the time in the week to be able to review everything, right? Like, so we'd probably have to talk about which one or how we're going to do it, or would it be results only? But that'll be interesting.
Logistics and stuff, I believe, for sure.
Michael Harris, welcome.
I don't think I've seen that name before. Hello.
No, that's a new one. Welcome to the show. You just missed Vinny Berry from Wrestleville. We did, 30, 40 minutes with Vinny. But it was just talking about the territories. Yeah, we think we probably will, and we'll figure that one out. I love you see lots of kids at the JCP events, watching them getting into wrestling. That's really what's super enjoyable for me these days, too.
Little kids that watch wrestling grow up to be us.
Yeah. They'll be on the Matrix in the next generation, just with hologram wrestling. I don't know things. But my daughter is 14, and she's the last of my brood, the youngest of 4, and I took her to see independent wrestling in a city about 30 minutes away from me. And this is after, like, she didn't really watch wrestling. And then I noticed when I was watching the NWA about a year ago, my daughter would sit there and, like, she'd really get into it. And I'd say, who do you want to win? And she'd say, I don't really care. It's just fun to watch. And then she started rooting for Camille, and she started rooting for Max later on. And then when Jeremy, back like a year or 2 ago, was like, UWN, you got to watch UWN. My daughter just went all UWN. The NWA was there, but all UWN. She wanted to see it, what's going on. She likes Memphis, so there's no accounting for
Hey, at the end of the day, while it may not be hitting on all cylinders, Dustin's still putting out a weekly show for us and doing the best that he can with what he has.
And it wasn't always about that either, right? Like, it used to be, remember I used to laugh, who's the guy on the swing set that turned out to be the Genetic Nightmare,
who now you just love, right?
He's fucking awesome.
Right?
And K Tumor before they kind of, anyway, it can all be brought back, is what we're saying, right?
And it's wrestling. Wrestling has peaks and valleys, right now they're just in a deep valley.
Yeah. Jerry Myers, don't know Jerry Myers either. Okay, don't know what that means, but welcome. Michael Harrison said, my son wants to be one. I guess as a wrestler, is trying to get his black belt. Is going to do the MMA style to get into it. Wow, man. Steve Blackman. How about that? That guy was deadly.
Right.
Matthew says, I think I might be more excited about Southeast and Midwest than the main show. That's NWA. Mainly because I know the top talent on the main show will be there, the Southern Six and EC3. Yeah. Exodus Pro, right?
Yeah.
And now, So how many territories are there now? Like I admit to kind of drifting away in the last few weeks. I can't watch Power, so I'm not super into it.
I'm not really sure how many they have. 3?
Yeah, Matthew says 3.
It's 3.
Yep.
You got Chi-Town. Yeah, you got FTL too, right? I think is the other one.
No.
And you got JCP. No, not FTL.
Exodus Pro, JCP,
right.
Chicago.
Right. There you go. Exodus Pro and NWA Chicago from our man James H. Jackson. I was reading this comment like, what? I don't. Anyway, yeah, she will be saying the next Jeremy. She'll be saying you need to watch UWN and all of its affiliates. Yeah, she will. My daughter will. She'll be like, Dad, okay, we need Memphis. We need Ironheart. We need, I don't think she knows about Derby City yet because I'm trying to kind of wean her off the screen time. but she's just like, is Cruel coming back? Is Cruel going to be destroying Gun Show? I don't like Gun Show. He's too old to wear his hat backwards. And Matthew says, by the way, Second by Fodder YouTube is essentially his matches everywhere. It's been a good follow. Maybe CCW is something to discuss. Yeah, maybe. It's funny. I feel like I harped on the NWA enough, and I don't want to continuously be that guy. I like to throw up little funny gifs about how I don't get to watch every once in a while in the Discord, but I don't. My apathy is frankly growing, and I'm okay with it. It's hard to be the torchbearer of, we don't get to watch over and over and over again without getting bored of yourself, and that's what's happening to me. But I do, still love the product around it, and CCW would be great, and the territories would be great. And I like, hey, we kind of pivoted to be about independence. We're going to go back to MLW in a sec, but and UWN, and I really think that's something that I look forward to to seeing. So listen, let's finish up. We started with MLW. Let's finish up with those results, Scoob. What do you say?
Okay.
Let's get back to you. We had Alex Kane, and he was getting the pep talk from
Mr. Thomas, and Top Dollar shows up and challenges him, and we'll see what goes down in New York City.
Okay.
The end of this month. The first match is Tony Deppen along with TJ Crawford and Griffin McCoy.
Right.
They ended up defeating Wasted Youth and Nolo. This was a very good match. Of the 6 wrestlers, Tony Deppen is the guy with the most experience. He is the veteran, and he's leading these guys the right direction.
Yeah.
He's a really great hand. Yeah.
I mean, it's Court knows what he's doing when he pairs up all these different people.
Mm-hmm.
That he makes either styles similar, or it's a complete Mutt and Jeff tag team, or it just he makes it make sense. You have to look at it and just go, I wonder why he did it. Then after watching it a little while, you're like, okay, they're fostering the way that they wrestle. So I mean, Tony Deppen, they end up walking away. He hits Marcus Mathers with the Shining Wizard to the back of the head. They got the pinball victory. This was a good warm up. It was guys that can move in the ring, but it's a mixture of all different styles, and that's what MLW is. they're saying is styles make fights.
What do you think of it, Jeremy? I know you love Wasted Youth.
Not just me. That crowd popped whenever they came out. Dave, you were there live. How over are they with the crowd?
I mean, they're over, and it's one of these things of they're not doing anything special. They're just being themselves. They're going out there having good matches, quick tags, and I believe they're from either the Philadelphia area or nearby in Jersey. So they're the quote unquote hometown boys whenever they're at the 2300 club, the arena.
Yeah.
But they're doing the right thing with getting these younger teams some experience and not just throwing them out there.
Yeah.
That they're bouncing back and forth, and it's not 50-50 booking.
No.
They're making stories out of it where it'll be a 3-man, then it'll be a tag team, then it'll be this, then it'll be, somebody gets attacked backstage. They're making the story flow from one thing to the next. Yeah. And that's what you need to do to move up the ladder. All these guys besides Tony Deppen are probably less than 3 years in the business. But by looking at it, the only way you'd know is, oh wow, they're young, they're under 25, they're not a grizzled veteran, but they wrestle very well for the amount of time that they've been wrestling.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of 6-man matches, but that was a hell of a match. To open up the show with that match, that was a great way to set the pace and tone for what we got to see from the rest of the show. Kudos and just big round of applause for that booking, because that set the bar, and then everybody else just continued to exceed it for me.
Yep.
Then you had Ricky Shane Page, I think, out next, right?
Yeah, we had Ricky Shane Page video package played from The Calling. Basically, Ricky Shane Page is saying, never meet your heroes. The Calling was started by Raven, and he collected hardcore wrestlers and basically came to the assistance of Akira and turned. So Sammy Callahan, if you ever watched Impact, he is now with MLW and part of The Calling. He's fitting right in, hardcore style.
I don't know what it is about Sammy Callahan. I think he's the shit. Like I dig that guy.
Yeah.
He's just got a feel about him. Yeah.
He's a big guy, but not big in stature, but he's just a big guy, and he doesn't take any shit. He just goes in there by any means necessary, is willing to beat the hell out of somebody and get injured to get the win.
Right.
But
he is a guy that would bite your nose off if that's what it took.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to fight that guy because he's gonna try to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you're gonna lose an ear or some shit. Yeah.
You're gonna walk away unwhole.
Yeah.
As soon as you said that, I started to think about. Do you remember that promo back on Power when what's his name? AEW. I'm so terrible in the moment with names. When he was on Power at the time, and he's like, "They told me not to come out here. I was gonna put a screwdriver in your eye."
Oh, Eddie Kingston.
Kingston, the Mad King. That's what he kind of reminds me of, and I love that energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to derail.
Well,
carry on.
They ended up finishing up that. Then another video package played, hyping up Bobby Fish. He's returning to MLW, and it's going to be at Intimidation Games the end of this month in New York. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go, and I was really looking forward to seeing some more wrestling.
How long's that drive, by the way?
That's about a 3-hour drive.
Oh, can you make that? Come on, man.
Yeah, it's a Thursday, and I have to. We're setting up a Leap Day promotion at our at our club. So I'll have
Sleep is for the weak, Scooby.
I know.
It's a school night, Tim.
I know. Go ahead.
I drove 10 hours to NWA 75 one way.
Yeah.
Damn.
Anyway, carry on.
Then we end up hearing from Matt Riddle. He's calling out anybody from New Japan, and it's New Japan Pro Wrestling, but it's from the dojo.
Oh, nice.
And if you've watched any UWN, you may know a guy named Bad Dude Tito.
Man.
He's known as Big Dude Tito.
Oh, Big Dude Tito over here.
Yeah, in MLW, I guess they wouldn't let him use the name or something, but that's going to be a meeting of the minds, both in wrestling style and just I mean, you got your MMA style fighting, your get down and dirty, and just your regular wrestling. That I'm actually looking forward to watching that match.
Hey, James H. Jackson says, no pain, no scoop, no pain, no gain, Scoop. Make that trip.
Okay, I'll have to meet with my boss if I can get out there. But we now have a 4-women match with Zeta, Tiara James, the Notorious Mimi, and Delmi Exo, and Selena De La Renta joins the commentary team for this match.
If Zeta didn't win, we riot.
Yeah,
Days later.
Zeta ends up hitting Mimi with the "I'm Prettier."
Okay.
And she scores the pinfall victory. So she has a chance of going after Janai Kai for the featherweight title. And I believe that's going to happen at Intimidation Games. But after the match, Zelina attacks Delmi. They have to be separated by a bunch of referees. Zeta then gets on the microphone, says that she's the queen of the whole featherweight division, and she's coming for the championship. Selena then gets on the microphone, says that Saint Laurent has a big fat wallet, but no amount of money is going to get her the wrestling skills or a title shot. And it's just a bunch of jibber jabber, and they're like, "I'm the queen, you're a peasant," blah blah blah. But it's building up another good battle, and I don't think either side is going to win, because with both of the women wrestling are in groups, so I look for outside interference. So the wrestlers, I don't think are going to lose anything in the upcoming match, because I look for outside interference.
Right. Okay.
And then it just extends the story, that they just stretch it out and make it make sense. So it's one of these things that I can't say enough. Court knows when to pull the trigger and when to let things warm up and then put it at a simmer and let it stay there for a while. Then there's a promo match hyping up Fatu and Mads Kruger. This will be the main event. They end up having the National Open Heavyweight champion Ricky Shane Page goes against Jake Christ, and it's one of these things that they do battle warfare so well with individual wrestlers that they'll pick one from each group, have them battle, then they battle the next guy. And in doing so, it makes the story mean something. That they may trade victories back and forth, or this one, it was a disqualification. So Jake Christ got the win, but it was
DQ.
He got the win because of disqualification, because Sammy comes out and just starts beating the hell out of him. So they're telling the story of, I need to get this victory and get this victory the right way. It's not going to be a DQ, that it will all end up being a multi-man match with no DQ, and they're just going to beat the hell out of each other.
Right.
And it's going to mean something. So after the match, Kira and Cannonball get involved. Chris ends up putting Cannonball through a table. And it's just this match. This is what storytelling is about.
Oh.
This is one of those things that it's outside interference. And they just keep going. That they're going to finish, basically, they're going to finish the story. It's a Cody Rhodes thing.
Right.
That he has to finish the story. This has really nothing to do with finishing the story in the way that Cody is, but they keep involving other members of their group. So it's multi-men setting up multi-matches that in the end it'll be a 3 or 4 man tag match, and everybody will just be in on the same thing, that they have one goal and one goal only, to either somebody walks away as the new national open weight champion, or it introduces a new member, something like that.
Right.
But they do very well in their storytelling and keeping it fresh. Next, we have Filthy Tom Lawler with MSL. He ends up defeating Matthew Justice, part of the Second Gear crew. And in doing so, this sets up for Intimidation Games, where Filthy Tom and Davey Boy Smith will take on the Second Gear crew, Matthew Justice, and one called Manders for the belts.
What else do you want in a tag match?
They're just going to beat the hell out of each other. And these are just guys that know how to tell a story, and they know what they're doing. That it's amazing.
Do either one of you guys know, is Hammerstone still a free agent, Matthew asks, or is he TNA all the way?
I think
free agent, and he's just picking and choosing where he shows up until he gets the call, quote unquote, from whoever, and gets a good size contract. But I mean, it's one of these things now that you don't need to be just signed up to one promotion.
Right.
That Cardona has shown that you can make money going here, there, wherever. And Hammerstone is, I believe he's enjoying just wrestling when he wants. Plus, he's healing up.
Yeah.
That MLW was one of the few that wrestled through the coronavirus.
Yep.
That's true. And I think recently he just showed up in, I always want to say Impact TNA, and just,
yep,
I'm going to wrestle Josh Alexander now, right?
Yep.
Hell of a match.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I don't know what's. I'll get off track. I don't know what's wrong that Josh Alexander isn't somewhere else other than where he has languished for so long. But carry on, guys.
Well, I mean, like I mentioned, they had the Matt Riddle announcement that it's a Big Bad Tito instead of Bad Dude Tito. They'll be at Intimidation Games, and I mean, that's just going to be a throwdown right there. And then it's
like Danny Rivera instead of Danny Limelight. Kind of freaks me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the head of Azteca Underground shows up. Cesar is back. He comes out, announces that Mystico, Barbaro, and Atlantis have joined Azteca Lucha. He begins to run down Serena. That brings her out. They have a jabberjaw. They're talking crap on each other. They have video of Duran crying, and they're trying to basically put each other down. But they're doing the right thing in letting the wrestlers defend them.
Okay.
That they're They can talk crap all they want and jabberjaw, but they're making it into a match that means something, that they're defending the honor of their prospective manager or the head of their little group, whatever.
Right.
But Rocky Romero ends up coming out. He's going to end up defending his title against someone from Azteca Lucha, and that'll be late at Intimidation Games. I haven't seen anything yet, but I would assume it's probably Mystico.
Okay.
Because if you don't know, Rocky is allowed to wrestle wherever, but he is also a liaison for AEW for some of the CMLL wrestlers there. So he has a plate full of duties. So I'm not sure if we'll see him back in MLW. So he may be dropping that title, but I mean, we'll see what happens. They end up having a Lumberjack and Jill match. This was just to get people out there in front of people's eyes. Brent Ryan Gosling ended up defeating Love Doug. And basically they're just building Love Doug up to be the underdog.
Yeah.
That he'll get his comeuppance down the line, but the crowd is just so over. I mean, he comes out with the angel wings and just throwing rose petals everywhere, and people just love him, and the guy can wrestle.
Yeah.
If you don't like what his role or his gimmick is, I can understand that. But when you look at him, it's almost like if you didn't like what Eugene did back in the WWF and WWE,
right?
But you know the wrestler, they can wrestle.
Yeah.
They may not have the best gimmick, but let it go.
Fine. He's making it work, right? That's the important thing.
Making it work.
I'll tell you right now that it's because of the talent that the man has inside those ropes that I'm sitting here doing this stuff.
Okay.
If it wasn't for that, I'd go. Please go. But he is solid.
And in doing so, they're building up newer talent. That Love Doug has been there a while, but he's been on the independents for years. So Brett Ryan Gosling has a Barbie doll. He's basically Ken from the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
And he's with Zeta, but he's not officially a part of the WTF. We're associated because we're friends, and I want it to be more than that. But right now, I'll have you be with me when I go out to the ring. So it's one of those things that it's like, okay, he gets the win. I don't think it really hurt Love Doug. Like I said, it's building him up for something better down the line. They end up doing a video package that recaps the history of Contra, and that's Mads Kruger coming back. Then they end up having a backstage video of Jake, Chris, Akira, and Raven. And because it's Raven and it's in Philadelphia, who shows up? The Blue Meanie.
Who cares?
Things of.
Well, Jeremy's a fan, so I'll be quiet.
Blue World Order forever.
So it's one of these things that if it's a numbers game and he can come in to help against the calling, he's an established name. People still pop when he shows up, but he isn't overused that much that people are booing him. So I'm like, okay. So
what a weird gimmick. It's just like that guy's always has. But he seems like a nice guy. Don't get me wrong, but it was like he was like 400 pounds, 350 pounds, and then he was like 180.
Yep.
And then he was like 350 pounds again.
Yeah. I guess he's enjoying his semi-retirement.
I guess so, yeah.
But we got Cozy Max, which is Kojima and Akamura They end up doing tag team against Davey Boy Smith and Richard Holiday.
Maybe my favorite name tag team, by the way.
Cozy Matt. I'm like, okay.
Sounds like like an electric sweater or something, you know.
Yeah.
Cozy Max. Yeah.
But I mean, this was just a good down and dirty match. That a lot of chest slaps.
Do I have
it was wrestling. It wasn't gaga. It was wrestling. That they were taking it serious, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Because Kojima and Okamura are amazing. That's why.
Oh yeah,
Kojima.
That and everybody chanting bread and him throwing out croissant rolls and all that kind of stuff to the crowd. It was amazing.
Speaking of, real quick, I want to interject. I would not in the least bit be upset if Kojima came out with hoagie bun nunchucks.
That would be good.
When he won the title, he said, okay, now everyone, let's go back to eating bread and drinking beer.
Yep. And then the final match of the event, Mads Cruel Kruger defeated Jacob Fatu in a Bukai brawl. He ends up hitting Scorch Earth to score the pinfall victory. This was just a back and forth, just heavy hitting. It's manly men slapping meat that both these guys can go, and I'm looking forward to see where Jacob Fatu shows up. But it's one of those things that they have a new character. If he's going on the way out, build the new character, or a returning character, build Contra up on the way out, because it's the right thing to do. It tells a story, it puts a bow on it, and it's good. They bring out the hit squad. They end up putting Fatu in a body bag, and they end up walking him out as it goes off the air. And I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So Mads Kruger, to me, being fairly new to MLW, is cruel elsewhere, right?
Yep.
And particularly in Memphis. So it kind of makes me but I know he was there before, and Contra was there before, and all of that great stuff. But there's only one question I ask. Jeremy, did you watch the show, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, answer me this question. You're watching at home. Dave's there at ringside. The only question on anyone's mind: did Cruel bring Brooklyn with him?
No.
Oh my God! Thank God.
She was pulling a double shift out by the airport.
It was just Mads Cruel Kruger out there with the hit squad, a bunch of guys in black masks, and they take care of business, and it wrapped up the story nice and tight, and I'm looking forward to where it goes. I had talked with some of them, some of the people that were there and also work for MLW, and what they're doing is, being that they have tapings every 3 to 4 weeks, that they're not doing a fusion TV show for YouTube anymore. They put the brakes on that, and they're doing basically free pay-per-views on YouTube and BN Sports. That's what's happening before and after when they do their tapings of before and after any pay-per-view that is going on. So you have Intimidation Games. There'll be roughly about 2 hours of filming before the actual pay-per-view, and that'll be another show that gets shown maybe 2 to 3 weeks after that pay-per-view.
Right.
So they're, rather than trying to tell a story doing weeklies and having a series of shows week after week on a Thursday, they're choosing to tell it all at once and put the story all together so you can watch it and then look forward to the next pay-per-view.
That's great. It's a great system. It seems to work. And, there's so much, how do I say this? There's so much better TV, as it turns out, now that I put my attention elsewhere, the focus of my attention. Oh, look, there's other companies who are doing better.
Yeah.
It sounds so petty. It's like, oh, she dumped me, and you know what? Well, my new girlfriend is cuter. But there you go. Oh, look at that. Yes, we talked about that earlier. That's all you want in a tag team match, right? That's going to be exciting. Well, looking forward to next time. Thank you, Scoob. Hey, Jeremy, are you all ready for this now? If I go like this and I play a certain video, are you all ready?
Yep.
I'm ready. All right. This is a segment we call Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The following is a presentation of the United Wrestling Network.
It's time for Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
Oh my God, the UWN is back. From him. All right, man. You're back in the saddle. We nursed this thing along for so long. The UWN, it's back. Tell us about it.
We're going to start off with the bad of the weekend, okay? Not necessarily the bad per se, but bad, but not, but yeah. I'm going to introduce an MVP this week. My MVP for this week is Aaron Roberts of Memphis Wrestling. And the reason that Aaron gets this MVP award this week is because for whatever reason, Tim Bosby and MKZ were set to face off against Main Event Bradley and Uncle Phil. No. I don't do intergender to begin with, but that wasn't even intergender per se. It's no. Thank the wrestling gods that Aaron Roberts came out and attacked Tim Bosby.
He's a hero to all of us.
We don't deserve that type of hero. My question, though, is what was the thought process behind booking the match to begin with? Why could this not have happened in a mic segment in front of the desk?
Right.
It
good, the bad, the ugly does include a lack of Jordan Clearwater. Go ahead, carry on.
Moving on to greener pastures. The UWN is back.
So exciting.
If you haven't watched the show yet, treat yourself. As soon as this is over, go watch it. It's on the Memphis YouTube channel. From beginning to end, Daniel was not exaggerating when he said that he thinks this is probably some of the best cards that they've had so far. We got to see J-Rod in action. We got to see Judiz and Jordan Cruz in action. We got to see Zicky Dice in action. We got to see some backstage segments. There was definitely groundwork and foundation work set for the Red Carpet Rumble, and it will happen, people. I don't have a date, but it's not far off. Few months. The match of the week, and I'm going to put it up for match of the year contender. Jordan Cruz, Judiz, the modern day Spartan, the Black Rose. Oh my God. this has so much psychology in it. If I didn't know any better, I would say that this was a WWE dark match that these two have been putting on for the past 2 years, and they finally got the chance to show it in front of the camera. That's how smooth that it was. That's how tight that everything was. These two know each other so well, and it showed in the ring. They put on a clinic. These aren't guys that you're seeing in AEW or WWE, and I'm asking myself why.
Right.
Why are these two not getting a shot? Jordan Cruz came back, and he's got a beard now. He's let the body hair grow out. He looks like he's packed on probably about 10 to 15 pounds of muscle, which he was already kind of yoked anyways, but now he's got a lot more definition in the neck and the shoulders. His chest and back look like they've gotten thicker. On the flip side of that, Judiz also looks like he packed on a good 20 pounds of muscle, if not more.
Looks fantastic too, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the sequences that we got to see in the ring, I'm not going to tell you anything, any moves or anything. I'm not going to give you the result or anything like that. Go watch it. Like I said, this was a clinic by two guys that up until a year and a half ago were afterthoughts. I hate to use that, but they weren't prominent figures in the UWN. Jordan Cruz was just starting to come out of that shell and show some personality and character. And now I can't wait to hear him on the mic. I can't wait to hear what he's got to say whenever they put a mic in front of him, because if it's anything close to what he's doing now in the ring, we're all in for something spectacular. If you're not watching the UWN and all of its affiliated products, screw you.
That's just flat out, everybody. There you go. Just up yours. Man. What was I going to tell you? Hey, something, that's what it was. Something that I started watching. I sit down and, Gilbert Corsi's there.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I don't know anything about Gilbert Corsi, but he seems like the nicest man in the universe.
Right? And that voice, it's so soothing.
Yeah. But the first commercial break, Championship Wrestling presented by Car Shield. And I'm like, what? So apparently they've reached some kind of deal or settlement with Car Shield.
Yes.
And that's good. Congratulations to you. It just surprised me because there was such a,
I was taken aback by it too. I was like, wait, what am I seeing here? And then I gave it a little bit, and then the answers popped up in the Discord, if I remember correctly, and Jay let us in a little bit.
Right.
They came to an agreement, I believe, and yeah. As long as they're putting money in David Marquez's coffer, that's all I care about.
And Zicky Dice, just, I mean, whether you like Zicky in the ring or not, I think he's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He's super fun on the mic, and he's always like such a heat magnet. So it's cool to see him back over there. Matthew says I agree about Cruz. He can go.
Yeah.
Go in the ring, not leave. A thrillbilly opponent in my eye.
That would be a nice match. That would be some money right there.
He feels like Jordan Cruz and also Judiz. Like, it felt like they elevated each other.
Oh yeah.
And, they both got there together, just having a year-long feud or whatever that culminated more or less here. I mean, if man, like you're right to nominate it for match of the year. I don't remember too many matches where I don't go, okay, I don't need to see everything that's happening in this one. This one had me on my seat. I was excited for the UWN to return as well. And I don't mean that comment about the UWN, but there's wrestling where you watch, where you're like, okay, this has gone on, long enough. How does it end, kind of thing, right?
I've watched that match 7 times, not including the first time I watched it, because it is a work of art. I'm not blowing any smoke up their asses. I'm not leaning into hyperbole. For me, that was a work of art match. It was
great.
Your contender for sure.
Does your wife sit there and go, what is this? Like the 7th time you've watched this match? Like,
I watched it on the phone.
Oh, on the phone. Okay, then you're all right. You're good to go.
But I wanted to, like I said, there was a lot of psychology that they put into it. The trading of the moves and Judiz almost hitting the Titan driver, and then the finish of the match. Nobody lost in that. That was a luck pin. That was a luck 3 count.
Right.
The winner got lucky. They know they got lucky in that. This is going to get ran back, I hope. God, I hope they run this back. I could watch it. I could watch them over and over and over. I have.
Right. It's amazing. We can't talk about it enough. Thank you for this. I'm excited to see the report back every week, like now that they're back, right? And we can talk about these matches of the week and Aaron Roberts, the hero of the week. UWN hero of the week, Aaron Roberts.
Here's one more thing I want to throw in.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that with UWN being back every Sunday, I'm hoping that this kind of prods Dustin and them in Memphis to step their game up a little bit and to second guess that booking decision and to sit down and go, do we really need to go this route? Do we need to do this? Tighten things up a little bit. That's what I'm hoping, that it gets them to tighten things back up a little bit and start climbing out of this valley right now.
Right. And we're here for it. We're here to support the UWN and its associated, how do you call it? The affiliates.
All of its affiliated products.
There you go. Appreciate you, man.
Yep.
And we're sticking with the UWN, even though we're going long. I don't care. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
We had Vinny, we got UWN, and we got Dave Scooby, Fantasy Booker. Daniel R. Hill was right, man. That is a banger of a song.
It's a couple of different stock audio things that I put together on one of the apps
it's
that I
so
use.
Good. Let's play it again. It also distantly feels like somebody's stabbing someone through a shower curtain, right? Listen to this just for a second. Anyway. Sticking with the UWN, of course, I always forget to put the banners up. So there's your banner, Jeremy. Sorry about that. There's so much to do here. Our fantasy booker extraordinaire. I respect you, Booker man. Who ought to be chasing? Well, I guess I put the Mighty Don't Kneel, but I guess it's the Zaddies, right? Same thing, sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
For the UWN World Tag Team titles.
I'm looking at it, and most of the teams are established teams or former champions. There's quite a few older teams that could possibly bring in. I mean, you have Midnight Heat, and I mean that's always. I've never seen a bad match of theirs. Reno Scum, and during the Krusty Crew when they were wrestling, there was a pop-up of Flex did a promo during the tag match for beef candy.
I was waiting for him to pop back on. Okay.
Like, yeah, you want to say it, Jeremy? Go ahead.
Yeah, he's in the background. Let's see.
But Don Kubrick, along with Lucas Riley, the Krusty Crew, I'm like, I don't even want to know how they came up with that name, but the guys can go.
Yeah, terrible name. Terrible name.
One of these things, depending on what happens, I mean, you're building a team, plus you also brought in that promo of beef candy. So you have a couple teams that could go after it. I'm not sure what the Mighty Don't Kneel or the Wolf Zaddies, whatever name they're going by. But there's so many different places that these wrestlers are wrestling. So if they want to keep it within the UWN, I'd probably go with beef candy. You have a returning champion, plus they had that promo. You're building up the Krusty Crew, and depending on what happens with Danny Limelight and the Bodega, what happens with him and Slice Boogie, Papa Esco is sort of lost in the shuffle. He was a former tag champ with Limelight. If Slice doesn't win with Danny Limelight, maybe the rest of the Bodega, Slice and Papa Esco, can go after the tag belts, and Bodega holds most of the gold. So there's still that friction, but you sort of keep Slice occupied along with Papo and go, hey, we're two-time champions as the Bodega, but it's something new for Slice to do. Plus, you don't have to give them a long run. That Wolf Zaddies, Mighty Don't Kneel, whichever name they're going by, while they're wrestling in UWN and in LA, it's one of these things of they've held the belt for over 300 days. So it may be time for a change. I'm not sure. I know they just started with the shows again, but I'm looking forward to who they push and the conflict between several of these teams to go after the titles. So we'll see what happens.
Well, what did Matthew say here? The West Coast Wrecking Crew? Is that what's his name? God. Slice Boogie looks like $1 million, by the way.
Oh yeah. Who is it? Royce Isaacs.
Yeah. Royce and did we lose Scooby?
No.
How the hell did I get here? You're over here, not me.
But this Wrecking Crew, I mean, I believe if they could be brought in, they could be a transitional champion depending on what they're doing with. I think they're still affiliated with New Japan. So they're wrestling. But I mean, the West Coast has so many different wrestlers available that I'd like to see a good tag team tournament put together. If they haven't chosen one or two teams to just battle it out and go after the tag titles, if they could do a tag tournament, maybe an 8-man tag, and the champion or the winner goes against the champions for the belts. But there's just so many teams on the West Coast that could be used to either give some of the other teams in UWN a bump, or if there's any teams that are out on the other indies, the UWN indies, if there's a tag team in Derby that could be used to build up that, have a traveling champion. It doesn't have to be for long. It could be a 3-4 month experiment, see how it works. And you could have champions traveling amongst the whole network of United Wrestling.
Yeah,
So,
I was saying that to Lamb in Lamb's Discord, which I don't want to link because it's like us cool guys and like 4 other people that I really like. And I don't want it to be out of control. I don't think Lamb does either. But to say, I kind of feel like Kevin Martinson gets lost.
Yep.
And I know it's been a gap, and I know it's been a long time, but he got lost before that when everything was active because Danny Limelight, friend of the show, loved Danny, fantastic talent, because he's right there in Hollywood.
Yep.
So it's like him, and then it's Martinson, but Jack Banning seemed to get all the airtime.
Yeah.
Which is great too, because I love Jack Banning. Yeah, if Danny were touring or whoever the world champion is, going to to Minnesota, to Derby, to Memphis, I think that'd be great. And and Matthew says we never got enough Slice Boogie on Power, and
he was wasted.
Yeah, and he's more aggressive now. Like when he does his vignettes, he's like, you can see him leaning into the camera and he looks like $1 million and he's giving you that energy. I don't care if it's Danny. I don't care if it's Papo. I don't care who it is. It's my time now.
Yep.
And I kind of like in his last one, I thought like, man, is he going to take it when he faces Limelight? Like if you guys were putting, Dave, if you were putting the UWN world title and world tag team titles on 2 new people right now, no thought, first things in mind, which of each would you go? Who would they go to?
Who?
Got to pick. It's curtain time.
I don't even know that got me out of left field.
Yeah, go, Jeremy, go.
I would go with Jack Banning for the world title and Midnight Heat for the tag titles. With everything that they've been doing outside of the UWN right now, and I've been following their Twitter feeds, posts. They're firing on all cylinders. They're in a Twitter beef right now with the Outrunners. Around Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my picks. Jack Banning for world and Midnight Heat for tag titles.
Great picks.
Well, I'd probably go with Beef Candy, give them a run, push them just because over the last couple years, they have been championship wrestling tag team. When you watch them, you see what they do. You recognize them, that they're part of the UWN. They're part of the DNA. As much as I'd like to see Danny keep the belt, I wouldn't mind giving Slice a run with it to see how he reacts. Because it can either turn, or if you end up doing like a Dusty Rhodes where he wins, but it's a disqualification. And then it's like, okay, you build a story and he wins it finally. And then see what happens with the bodega. Do they stay together? Does Papo have to choose which side? Does he go back with Danny, who started it, or does he side with the new champion if Slice does become the new champion?
Right.
So, I mean, not that Slice can't take care of himself, but I'd sure as hell want Papo Esco watching my back as a basically a bodyguard.
Yeah.
I don't have any picks myself. I just thought you guys should. I'm a terrible human being. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Scoob. Appreciate it. We went super long tonight with Vinny Berry and UWN and MLW. Well, longer than we normally do anyway. We're at the 2-hour mark. So, yeah, man, this has been fun. It's exciting to have the UWN back again, full time. You know, we had Daniel Hill on last week, and there's a lot of hope for the future. James H. Jackson, a question for Jeremy. J-Rod has been wrestling a lot in ROH as enhancement talent, losing all matches in squash matches. Is that in any way, do you feel it hurts her in UWN?
Yes and no. Unfortunately, she's at the will of the booker, and the booker there is Tony Khan. And if they're not an AEW talent internally, they're going to be enhancement is what I've come to notice. Mm-hmm. I don't think it would be so bad if they weren't squash matches, because that's essentially what she has in the UWN is squash matches, but she comes out the victor in them.
Yeah. She looks like $1 million.
Yeah. I'm hoping that by going out there and playing ball and doing what's asked of her, you know, being reliable, being a good hand in the ring, that'll get her out of the enhancement role in Ring of Honor. Because as it stands right now, between her and Savannah Stone are my pick for the women's world title.
Yeah.
And UWN. And I feel that it'll come down to her and Savannah Stone once it's all said and done. So
I would like to see her be more of a. I know this isn't her like technical wrestling isn't particularly her angle, but I would like to see her attitude-wise be more Dean Malenko-esque. Like as a heel, if she were to walk to the ring like she did this week, just head to the ring, and if someone holds up that "I love you, J-Rod" sign, just rip it up like she did this week, you know, and just walk in, or just ignore it, walk in, do her thing, and leave.
Yeah.
Wreck everyone and leave, right? That's what the shirt says. I think she'd go a long way with a gimmick like that.
Yeah.
And he said Slice Boogie's been winning matches on ROH lately.
Good.
I don't even know where to watch ROH. It's how dead it is to me right now. I used to love that product, but anyway, there you go. All right, guys.
I'll fill you in the green room after the show where you can watch it.
Appreciate it. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you both. Thanks everyone who watched and is still out there. And next time we'll see you at the match.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.